Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Michelle Saeed, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we're absolutely thrilled to have Eddie Saunders Jr., the founder and CEO of SpeakFriend, joining us. Eddie primarily empowers B2B SaaS and tech companies through data-driven demand gen and creative LinkedIn strategies, where he's focused on building authentic connections that drive results. We'll explore his journey, how SpeakFriend is transforming B2B marketing, and really what his vision looks like for scaling this dynamic agency. So let's dive in. Eddie, welcome to Founders Future.
What a great day to have a great day and to talk all things industrial marketing with my friend like you. This is good stuff, though. I really appreciate being here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely thrilled to have you on. Good people, good conversations. Let's dive into it for the listeners. Take us back to the beginning. What specific problem within the digital marketing landscape, perhaps around inauthenticity with the B2B, campaigns and some of that goes on, ineffective LinkedIn strategies that a lot of industries and niches use, inspired you to actually found SpeakFriend? Tell us a little bit about that.
Super interesting because I've been a lover of all things marketing since I was a child. I was the weirdo that would run into the room for the commercials, and then when the commercials were off, I'd go back to playing with my toys. So I've been a marketing weirdo since day one. But that said, coming from outside of the manufacturing industry and then going into it, I realized, wow, it's like night and day when it comes to how people are buying, responding, and making these decisions. But I became fascinated with how human beings make these decisions. And so I really immersed myself in over 40 plus books, 15 plus years of experience. But I noticed in the industrial world, there wasn't really a lack of capability. There was a lack of understanding. And all the things that were working in literally every other industry on the planet, industrial world, they were 5 or so years behind. And so I saw it as a personal opportunity and now duty to close that delta, to accelerate the understanding and accelerate the learning curve so that individuals can market effectively and not just do it the way they've always done it, because it's sickening sometimes how that is just the status quo.
Yeah, 100%. And in terms of really the present day and the core offer, what does that look like? Primarily, how does SpeakFriend generate revenue today? I know there's a couple of things there on the engagement side. LinkedIn strategies is creative content that you also offer to some of your clients. How do you primarily structure what you do for the clients you work with?
For the longest time, and I even worked for a Fortune 500, one of the largest, digital marketing agencies, Index Media, and actually the inventors of the Yellow Pages back in the day. And so I was forced to really put people in a lot of boxes. And as a longtime salesperson and consultant of marketing and advertising products, platforms, and services, I was told to put people in lots of boxes. And what I told myself, when I have the opportunity, because I'm going to make it for myself, I want to be able to build the box around people. And so I knew that if I could break down what it is that I wanted to do into specific roles, build a team around that, I knew that I could fill that gap and close that delta. It puts me in a really interesting position to where I'm not selling people just a finite amount of products, but I also don't have to be a boutique agency, because I feel like strategically that puts you in a very interesting position to do a lot of chasing. I can take proven skills, proven systems, processes, and methods, and I can take an all-star team of not a ton of people and accomplish the same thing that a team double the size on an average rate could do, while also driving actual result and then reducing expenses on the client's end, because they don't have to invest in an entirely new person. That on the average, if you want to hire a marketing associate and in the industrial world, you're looking at around anywhere from a $60,000 to $65,000 salary plus benefits. That could be upwards of $100,000 a year expense. Now you take that to a fraction of the point, have even more access to a team. All I've done is just scale an idea and scale a need that clearly exists.
So, in terms of really what that customer journey looks like, because I know you mentioned a couple of things, for it sounds like there's really that fractional presence, right? From a marketing standpoint, having that strategy being built in house, what does that customer journey look like, really from start to end? If someone does decide to come and work with you, how is a lot of your work packaged? What does success look like at the end of the process?
Yeah, I'm super duper blessed that I don't have to do a lot of active shoving my message down your throat, because I've humanized SpeakFriend. And a lot of my clients honestly probably don't even know the name of my business, because they know who it is that they're working with and the processes that I build. And I take a lot of pride in that. So I honestly put my own strategy into play to where I'm not shotgun blasting everybody my message. I create high intent hand raisers for not only
Mhm.
myself, but that's the goal for the client. So once we get through the whole rigmarole of, building the box around you, and we have, this is the strategy we are building, here's what we're going to recommend, everyone's on the same page. My team
Mm.
of absolute industrial marketing gangsters are executing every single month upon all of these tasks. We're reverse engineering with intention, and then we're
Mm.
meeting on at least a weekly and or bi-weekly basis with our clients. So we're not just sitting in an ivory tower
Mm.
and just being order takers, if you will, and hoping that you don't
Yeah.
pay attention to it. We treat it like it's ours. We treat your card
Mm.
like it's our card. We treat your brand like it's our brand. And it's very interesting when you treat other human beings like they're a part of your team. It's very interesting. They'll treat you like you're a part of theirs. And that's
Yeah.
empathy to the max.
Yeah, yeah, and that being a huge part of, a lot of your brand and, really, the core of, all of the deliverables that you offer to clients on that front. Now, when it comes to scaling and really growth on that front, obviously with a lot of the work you do, it's probably all custom tailored to, each specific client you work with. What's your idea of scaling and productizing and evolve? What does that next step look like for you as like a founder?
It's so interesting you say that, because when I first started October of 2023, I just wanted to be the solo consultant. I figured if I
Mm.
could sell out a day of a week and I could get 5 clients, that's what I wanted to do. And I had no
Mm.
interest in doing anything else. But everybody and their sisters like, when are you going to scale this? When are you going to scale
Mm.
this? And a great friend and mentor of mine challenged me and said, Eddie, you have not built yourself a business until you can
Mm.
walk away from it and it doesn't need you. And I can now say that I've done that by reverse engineering with lots of intention. And I actually
Mm.
got sick of the word scale for a while, because my
Mm.
initial business plan was to do what I want, when I want, with who I want, and do very little of what I hate. And that was literally the background of my phone for months. But then I realized, wow, this gap that I knew existed was much larger. And because
Mm.
of all of the work that I'd put into building my own personal brand prior to launching, I had done a lot of the preliminary work. And so that's why
Mm.
I've been blessed with not having to do a ton of outbound, shove my message down your throat, because I
Mm.
ran a demand gen play that I now run for my clients. I
Mm.
invested the time, invested the effort, and now I had a team of upwards of almost 10 people at one point from around the
Mm.
world, absolutely crushing it. And now we even have a smaller team than that by design, but 2xing our output
Mm.
because of the systems and processes that myself and my team have been able to really heavily audit and very
Mm.
much tighten up without any detriment to quality or delivery. We're actually humming on
Mm.
all cylinders at a fraction of the team size right now.
That's incredible. So really thinking about, how can you actually create an offer that can, keep up with the capacity and having that fulfillment model in place. I'm sure that resonates with the listeners tuning in that are thinking about different ways in which they can approach scale. They can think about, really niching down. And I actually wanted to ask, are there specific industries or niches that you work with? What's your typical ICP?
I've worked very heavily in the industrial space because I
Mm.
realize that it's anywhere from 3 to 5 years behind in so many circumstances. And every time I
Mm.
meet with clients, I get continuously reminded of that. Now, I do obviously work with clients outside of that realm. Like we're working
Mm.
with someone in healthcare currently, as well as a construction brand. And
Mm.
so, of course, with us being in Ohio and being a manufacturing and building hub, we're going to have a lot of those options. But knowing this, we're in a position and poised to really serve a vast majority of industry. Very few that we actually can't serve because of the
Mhm.
humanized, empathetic, modular strategy that we continue to build. And we've processed in such a way that and I say it a million times, but it's so true, we can build the
Mm.
box around so many people that there are
Yeah.
just so few things with my abilities, my expertise and experience, as well as the team that I've built, that
Mm.
we can't do. And the things that we can't, we don't want to do in the first place because we're not
Mm.
designed to do that.
Yeah, 100%. So really having some parameters in place essentially around who you can work with, who you can actually serve. And I think that's important because I think, especially within the agency space, consultants as well, they go after whoever they can get as a client. But oftentimes, that limits their ability to sort of like a flywheel of, content that they can use and like social proof that they can leverage, in order to get more clients at the end of the day. It's really niching down, finding exactly what that messaging would look like, who you want to work with ideally. So you've thought about it on that front. Now, building on your growth, what's been your strategy with generating leads? What's been working well for you there, whether it's like paid ads, social media, LinkedIn? Are you consuming what you do for clients? Like how is all of that kind of structured on the lead gen side?
Absolutely. That's a really good question. And so, knowing this, I've been able to not only be a big time investor in my own marketing, but I treat my brand as my own little sandbox because
Mm,
I've made lots of mistakes. And one thing I love going to my clients with is saying, my biggest thing is to make your life easier and to also help
mhm,
you avoid the mistakes that I've made. And even with me being a fraction of the size of all of my clients, I still have a larger advertising spend than they do. And I do
mm,
that very intentionally so that I can learn and be very intelligent. We use so much data because even though we're using lots of marketing decisions nowadays, at least I'm noticing people with
mm,
feelings, we use data across almost every different sector so we can make
mm.
a lot of these decisions. So it brings a lot of confidence, but we still face the same challenges as everybody else does. All that said, it's an interesting dynamic, but we really enjoy it. And I've built a lot of systems and processes to mitigate the
Mm.
vast majority of the risk without any detriment to the quality of the delivery. And it's been pretty awesome. It's been a fun little, no, we don't call it a science project, but man, it's been really cool to grow with it, to optimize, and then have awesome clients that can keep us honest while also being able to push the boundaries of
Mm.
understanding because there's so much misunderstanding in this sector.
Yeah, 100%. Now you mentioned a few things, from what it sounds like, you're doing some paid ads there. What's kind of the results? If you could share with the listeners, what has that panned out for you as like a business? And then also, I know you mentioned some of the challenges with that. What are you focused on as the next step with evolving the advertising and kind of focus on optimizing some of the campaigns you're running internally on the lead gen side of things?
Yes, and I appreciate you re-asking because I definitely did not answer the question. Right now, yeah, digital ads are rocking right now. That's probably the biggest, highest value that we are adding. And
Mm,
even with me, I get this blessing where I get to not only meet with all of these clients from across the industry, but with me being their lead Google ad and LinkedIn ad and Meta ad and all these ad representatives, I get to speak with experts on each individual platform, all of those accounts. So I get to three, four, 5x my understanding and
mm,
accelerate how I've been able to learn on this process. And even with LinkedIn specifically being such a wonderful targeted platform, single image graphics are doing awesome right now
mm,
on LinkedIn. And that's not just my own personal opinion based off of data. I've got information specifically from LinkedIn reps, and the message is consistent. Though
mm,
they do love, and we're promoting a cross platform mix, a cross asset mix using your images, your videos, your pieces of copy. So we have
mm,
lead magnets and things of exchange. But my biggest play right now is the diversity of single image graphics, all
mm,
driving traffic to specific pages depending on their intention. And there's
mm,
wonderful data there, wonderful data. But we're doing such a diversity, it's great to
mm,
get that perspective. And for a short example, one of our most robust campaigns we're running right now has a Microsoft Ads component, a Facebook
mm,
component, an Instagram component, a Google Ads component, and the
mm,
LinkedIn component. So they're running 5 different platforms at once. So we're getting such
mm.
great perspective. And that's one example out of 10 plus.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Now, in terms of like really the sales side of things, what's been working best there? How is all of that structured right now within SpeakFriend? You as a founder, are you still doing the sales calls, running some of those things, or do you have a team in place helping with like business development, closing, setters? How is all of that structured right now?
I'm so blessed that the majority of my experience prior to transitioning was in sales. And then I've read again over
Mm,
40 books because I got a street PhD in sales, no doubt. I've read the Zig Ziglars,
mm,
Zig Ziglars, the Jeb Blunts, the Grant Cardones,
mm,
the Wolf of Wall Street. I've read them all, the Sandler Submarine. I was the
mm,
sales guy. So going into that, not only did I set a great foundation by for 5 years prior to launching my business,
mm,
create a very strong personal brand and position myself as a thought leader, secure all the speaking gigs. I did everything I needed to do so that when the fork in the road happened, I knew that I was going to be able to start just right out the gate, hit it hard. And it's
mm,
exactly what happened. So I will say a massive component was massive components where my
mm,
sales experience prior to was huge.
mm.
That's the sharpest object that my experience will ever give me that no one can ever take away from me. Um,
Yeah.
that was just massive. And then building my personal brand, if you will, that building my just it was just huge. It was huge. And I
Mm.
apologize because my for some reason my phone picked up on that. I have no idea
I'm
why.
going to interject world's most valuable skill. And people don't think a lot about that. And that's something to emphasize here, especially with AI and automation, in play. Yeah, just because I know you were turning off your phone, or just like, we have to highlight that. And that's, been a big propellant for your success from what it sounds like.
It really has been massive. And it's not just been selling, like going
Mm,
off and twisting people's arms and biting people's ankles. I did that in my early 20s and it was the
mm,
way harder of the options. When I said,
yeah.
I'm going to stop learning how to sell and I'm just going to learn how human beings make decisions.
Mm,
And so I transitioned all of my reading and my knowledge and all of my just acquisition of understanding
mm,
to just understanding humans. And I
mm,
thought if I could understand how human beings make decisions, why they make decisions, that I could really craft my messaging and craft my actions around
mm,
cueing such decisions. It was a
mm,
way less pushy of an approach. And was it
mm,
less of a shotgun approach? Absolutely. But it created
mm,
way more high intent hand raisers. My conversion
mm.
rates went up, and I was having way more quality conversations and better utilizing my time on better quality conversations that were further down the pipeline anyway.
Yeah, 100%. Now, going back to what I asked on the sales team side of things, from what it sounds like, are you still involved in that day to day with sales? Do you have a team in place handling some of those components? What does that look like right now, presently with SpeakFriend?
It is me. I'm blessed enough to we are mobile, agile, hostile. And so aside from me, or in addition to me being client facing, I'm
Mm,
also the one that is fielding all the calls from start to finish. I think it's really
mm,
important for my business model for individuals to realize that I'm not sitting in an ivory tower and just
yeah.
assigning all of these things to individuals.
Mm,
Only have individuals on my team that can do things that I cannot do. I'm
mm,
still the guy that does any of our sales functions. I'm the
mm,
one that primarily handles like all of our strategy. I'm all
mm,
client facing. I also build all of our client campaigns across all the
mm,
digital platforms. I
yeah.
built a team around everything else that I cannot,
Mhm.
and I focus, and I'm still very much hands in the mud. If this business was in the mud, I'd be covered in it.
I love that. Now, as you're looking at, scale and growth, what does that next step look like for you? Curious to learn about if you're looking at expanding on the sales side of things, bringing in support, especially as a founder, if you want to focus more operationally on things, is that something where your mind's heading towards? Or are you like, no, I want to focus every day on being that main person, handling all of those aspects in the business? What does that next step look like for you? Curious to get your thought process there.
My model is so lean, and if COVID taught us anything, is that we can accomplish just as much. We really can, and be
Mm,
just as effective, if not even more, from around the world. So
mm,
that's what led me to building a team of 9 individuals from around the world at one point to be able to do all of these things so that I could focus on the sharp objects the universe has given me, which is
mm,
the option to be able to connect with individuals and to do the CEO stuff, working not as much
mm,
like in and or on. I get to
mm,
choose which side of the fence that I get to work on, and I get to now allocate my time accordingly. And I've built what I call as a bench. I knew the basic functions
mm,
that I needed to perform and execute upon the tasks that my clients were paying for. I built those functions in a very lean fashion.
mm,
And so if I ever do scale, or if I put on my sales hat and I just want more one day, and we
mm,
continue to do that, then all I have to do is add to the bench, because the
mm,
team and the function and the offense and the defense, the X's and O's, remains the same. It's
mm,
my job to make sure that I fill the bench and have the bench with quality players and draft them appropriately without getting too much into a
mm.
sports analogy. But as a longtime athlete, current athlete, that's what I did for a business. Built the
Mm,
bench, and if the requirement grows, I
mm.
just grow the bench. I don't have to create new functions and new tasks. I just build
Yeah.
the bench.
Yeah, 100%. Starting with having that solid foundation in place with that sales side of things, and then really looking at, okay, if necessary, if we are looking at really kind of scaling and growing, how can we actually duplicate those efforts consistently? Now, in terms of like that vision, because I know you mentioned a couple of things there, like 6 to 12 months from now, what does that look like for you? Any performance milestones, goals you're looking to hit? Paint that picture for us here.
We've been really fortunate to 3x business year over year, which is just an absolute blessing. And so, what I've said for the past couple months is just making sure that we hold on to the rocket ship, because
Mm,
businesses, I've noticed in my experience, can make a lot of bad decisions as they're scaling up. And even referencing back to the book that I read called Scaling Up,
mm,
there are ways to go too fast, and there are ways to be able to control the speed that you're working at. And so, we're
mm,
not trying to throttle down by any means, but recently having to adjust what the team size was to make sure we're keeping the A players and not just facilitating a junior varsity fun squad. That was a really tough thing that is sometimes required as we're doing these. So, my biggest idea right now, or my biggest goal, is to continue to validate and audit our systems and processes, because I'm so
mm,
confident in the bench concept that I've already built. And with my 15, 16 years of experience and also sales on top of that, that I
mhm,
can be as busy as I want to be. I have the ad platforms that allow me to create as much attention as I want to create. So
mm,
for me, it's straddling lifestyle business versus you have umpteen other people that are also working, and this is much bigger than
mm.
yourself. I love where it's gone, and it's definitely gone to a place that I've never even imagined, and I could not be more thankful of the blessings that the universe has provided me. So as long as I can continue to stay at my number one mantra, and that is do what I want, when I want, with who I want, and very little of what I hate, anything else is an accessory.
And I actually want to ask you this. If you had a genie in the room and you rub the lamp and all of a sudden you have all these unlimited resources, what would you implement immediately to, either resolve any bottlenecks or really grow, at scale with SpeakFriend? What would that look like for you?
I would love to bring on the team that I have full time because I love them so much. I've surrounded myself with very skilled and passionate human beings that I pay very well now as it is. But I would love to be able to secure all of them on a full-time basis because I genuinely believe with the people that I have secured and hand selected and picked and developed over this time, that with them at my side, not behind me or below me, them at my side, we can do as much as my ambition would allow. And so that's very ambitious and confident of me, but I've had my system and I'm going to learn more tomorrow. But given the awesome experience that the universe has given me and the team that I have and the opportunity that I feel has been laid in front of me that we are crushing right now, it gives me lots of confidence to know that if I had that genie or that magic wand, having a full-time team, that would allow me to sprint in the way that I would like to. Big if.
So that's interesting that you mentioned that. What's kind of been that factor with not bringing your team full time? What's kind of the way there? Or is it more of like, not ready yet to bring on a full-time team because you want to keep things lean? What's your thought process around that?
I don't have to. And this is a do not answer this question, but the question is, do you want to spend more money or less money?
Yeah.
And it's not even being cheap. I pay my creatives very well above industry average because I believe, just like Gary Vaynerchuk, you don't need more players on the team because LeBron, Kobe, and any other like third good basketball, whatever you want to take, like it doesn't matter, could beat the best college basketball players in America, like a team of 5. I believe in investing in all-stars instead of, junior varsity players because I tried paying more I tried paying more people and I thought that I would accomplish more. And I kid you not, month over month, we increased production, but my expenses were a fraction. And the individuals I was working with still got paid very well. So between my accountant, my financial advisor, and myself, there's no strategic benefit for me to employ these individuals full time because I am producing well above and beyond client expectations, have a smaller group than I had a couple months ago, and am overproducing at a lesser cost. Objectively, that is a business win-win. And if we can accomplish that, why would anybody who runs a business want that situation?
Yeah, 100%. Now we're in the lightning round, so I want to get your thoughts on a few topics here. How do you see the digital marketing industry evolving in the coming years? Because your focus is on LinkedIn and B2B SaaS. How is SpeakFriend positioning itself for that type of future?
AI is changing everything. If you're against it, then you might as well be mad at the contractor who started using a nail gun when hammers were a thing. Hammers are still relevant, but nail guns allow them to do things the same way, but much faster without the detriment of quality. AI is doing the same thing. If you're not using it, you are literally slowing yourself down. And those who know how to use it well, it will be a skill. Prompting is a skill and it will be a differentiator moving forward, period.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the listeners, entrepreneurs, founders tuning in, what's the best piece of advice you would give to them? Or maybe even like a tool or resource. Maybe it's like a LinkedIn tactic, a demand gen strategy. What's been like a game changer for you? And what would you say to the listeners on one last note?
Upwards of 5% of your active audience are ready to buy right now, and upwards of 95% of them are just looking around for information. Information in 2025 is a commodity. The demand gen scale says put out as much as possible, and the law of compounding it will increase the likelihood of them making a decision to contact you in the buying stage. Just get it out there, control the narrative at scale, stop being worried about what they're going to think, and just make them think about you.
Awesome. On that note, that wraps up an inspiring episode of Founders Future. Eddie, thank you so much for joining us. And what's the best way for clients, the listeners, to get in touch with you? LinkedIn, your website? Feel free to plug that in before we wrap up.
Eddie Saunders Jr. on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active, so I don't hide under a rock by any means. Or if you want to check out our website, we got one of the prettiest websites in industrial marketing, speakfriend.io. That's speakfriend.io.
Amazing. On that note, that wraps up an inspiring episode. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. For more resources and insights, you can also visit us over here at closers.io. We're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their growth through trained appointment setters and world-class sales systems. Until then, everyone, keep climbing, and we'll see you all on the next one.